Hello there, guys. This is Jennifer Alley coming to you live from Madison, Wisconsin. I am here visiting my brother, who's a professor at the university here, UW-Madison. Go Badgers. And I think some of you probably know, if you've been following me already, that I am on a little bit of a wild ride right now. I'm on a totally unintended road trip from Minneapolis back down to Florida. And I wanted to share this with you just to have you along the ride with me, because to be honest, I think it's really fascinating how this whole thing is unfolding. And so I want to share with you what that's all about and how I'm seeing it, because on Facebook it looks like, oh, this is really fun. Like, I got a new convertible and I'm seeing all these friends and going boating and doing these things, when there are actually a lot deeper layers to the whole story and how this is playing out that pertains not just to me and my journey, but my guess is that it also pertains to you and your journey as a spiritual being going through the human experience. So certainly, if you're joining at any point in this video, feel free to leave a comment, post a question. I will be keeping my eyes out for that. And then also, if you're watching this after the fact, you can still go ahead, post, leave questions, comments, and I will be happy to reply to those. And then also, I hope that you'll follow me on Facebook and Instagram as I'm going through this journey again, because the whole unfoldment here is such a great representation of how life unfolds in general, that I'm hoping that there's some learning and some fun in it for you as well. So before I dive too much into the story about the car and the road trip and that whole manifestation and how that's playing out, I want to just back up for a minute and just share a little bit more about myself. So I have a vantage point on life that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. That means that first and foremost, each and every one of us is a soul. And our soul gets projected into the human realm in order to do things that it can't do strictly on the spiritual planes. Things like grow and expand, connect with others, have contrasting experiences that force us to grow. Our souls can't do a lot of things without a body, like drive really cool BMW convertibles and bask in the sunlight and play games and do water sports and experience snow and nature and cities and all of the wonderful things that are part of our world. But that being said, there are things that are part of each soul's growth that become bigger missions that we're also here to accomplish. And we do that in connection with other souls, which means other humans. So one of the things that I'm always really fascinated by is how we connect, and how souls who really are meant to collaborate with each other or have certain shared experiences with each other, how they find each other. So one of the things that I'm really going to be curious about as I go on this road trip is, who are the souls, who are the people out there who are waiting to meet me and who I get to meet along the way? Because that's really where so much of the juiciness of life comes from, is those unexpected connections, sometimes the planned ones too, but really the people who we get to cross paths with, who we have that click with. And to me, that's what I like to call soul connection, soul recognition, soul family. Those are people who you meet, who you feel drawn towards, who you feel a resonance with, who it's really easy to strike up conversation. I'm watching, it looks like Arnaud is watching this live broadcast. Salut Arnaud. And he's actually a wonderful example of someone who I recently had a soul connection with. We met at a breakfast cafe. I can't remember, Dune Deck Cafe, I think is the name of the place, in Florida, just randomly sitting there, and we struck up a conversation, and it was like super delightful. It was just flowing. It was easy. It was fun. That is a soul connection. And we have so many of those available through life. I think that we get caught up in our routines, our habits, staying very narrowly focused, caught up in our apps, our phones. We get sucked into these things and don't pay attention to the people who are around us, who are available to connect with us. So a lot of what I want to discover on this journey too is, who do I get to connect with? So that's one thing. And if you've been following, we have this beautiful llama unicorn fairy notebook that it's sort of like, it's going to be a travel log. It's a connections log. I'm already inviting people to sign it and share what feels to them like authentic connection, or what makes their soul happy. So I am actually not going to be reading this until I get back to Florida, whenever that may be. So, so the soul connection of things is really interesting to me, and so much of my work, my professional work, and really what my life is dedicated to, is the soul's journey, and not just understanding it for myself, but being able to teach it in ways that other people can understand from an energetic perspective, understanding the quantum physics of it, universal laws, and then the neuroscience. How are we humans literally physically built to embody our souls so we can go on the journey, and so that we can do it in ways that are easy, that are flowing, that are fun, that are connected. And to me, that's what I think it's all about. And I think that's what life gets to be. So if you are joining the live broadcast and you've got questions, feel free to go post them in the chat box. I will be happy to respond to those, or any comments that you have. And if you're listening to this afterwards, you can still go ahead and comment, and I will be happy to respond. So all of my work is really about alignment and flow, like being in alignment as a human being, being in alignment with your soul's greater agenda. See, I think the soul has all of these potentials lined up for us, of things, ways that we can express its greater missions, and then also ways that we can connect with others, different kinds of people can connect with. But we as humans still always have choice. We get to choose to say yes or no to the things that are presented to us. And then that's going to influence how the path unfolds. So being able to think about that in ways that are really logical and rational, I think that that's a really important part of the journey. And to be honest, I've been a little bit in the closet about sharing how much of the spiritual side of things I actually work with, and that I share with other people that I do to help them. One of the things that I do is working in the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records is something that I like to think of as like the cloud for the soul. It's basically a really high vibrational storehouse of information, where all of the potentials for each soul, the information for that is housed. So it's a really rich spiritual tool to work with. Everybody has access to their own Akashic Records. I've been trained as a consultant and as a master healer in the Akashic Records to help people access theirs, just so they can get more clarity about the journey, so they can have more understanding about relationships, so they can get clearing and healing sometimes even in the physical body. It's a little bit more on the esoteric or metaphysical side of things. And if you had asked me a few years ago what I thought about this stuff, I would have been like, that sounds crazy. And it's taken me some time to grow into it, and really to be able to come out and say, this is the level of work that I do, because I've also had my own fear about not being understood. And so I want to share that with you, because I think that's also a really important part of just everything in life, but also setting a contextual framework for what I want to share with you as far as this journey goes. Because for me, like, I didn't really get any of that metaphysical and esoteric spiritual side of things until I understood the science behind it. And so that's why understanding the quantum physics and how the dynamics work between the soul and the human, our human counterpart, like how that works and fits together, to me that's so important, to have a really good comprehensive view of how the journey unfolds, and the journey of life in general, and how we can do our best in that. And understanding how energy flows is something that's super important. So let me take this into now this whole road trip thing. Somebody asked me the other day, what is this, a midlife crisis? No, it is not a midlife crisis, although there is definitely a lot of ebbing and flowing in the journey. So here's how this kind of unfolded. totally, totally unintended. If you would have asked me a month ago that I'd be here at this point, never would have guessed. So that's what we really call being in the flow. So back in May, I was in Florida, and I knew that in July, one, I wanted to come to the Midwest. I wanted to go home to Minneapolis for the 4th of July with friends and families, just kind of one of those annual things I like to do. And two, I knew that the car I had leased 3 years ago, my cute little Fiat 500X, that it was going to be due to return it in July. So I was starting to think about what kind of a car would I want. And I was like, oh my God, car shopping. Like the last thing I want to do is go car shopping. It seemed like tedious and annoying. And so anyway, I had posed the question in my mind, like, what's the new car that I want? And instantly in my brain flashed an image of a white convertible with a red leather interior. Now, I very quickly dismissed that image because I was like, oh yeah, that'd be great, but I don't know where I'd find it. I don't know what kind of car it would be. And I did the human thing of like putting off the information that the soul was already dropping into my brain mind. Because that's how the soul works, right? It gives you information in what are called quantum packets that get dropped into your brain mind. And that's where inspiration comes from. That's where ideas and visions come from. That's the soul planting the seeds of stuff it wants to experience, but it needs your human partnership in order to manifest it. So I had this idea of a white convertible with a red leather interior. I thought that'd just be sexy as hell. And then I dismissed it. And I remember thinking, well, maybe I'll get a Camaro. I actually looked at Mercedes because I thought, oh, maybe I could, I'm sure they have that kind of color combination, but I looked at it and it was way more than what I wanted to spend. And I had kind of, really put the vision aside. And so I was waiting for that to unfold. So that's in May. June, I'm getting ready to buy a ticket to come to Minnesota. And I kept putting it off because I knew when I wanted to come, but I didn't have a very good read on when I should go back. So I didn't know when to book the return ticket. So I kept putting it off. And then at some point I was like, Jennifer, buy a ticket. The prices are going up. And then I thought, oh, another quantum packet. Just get a one-way ticket. So I bought a one-way ticket to Minnesota, and what ended up happening was on my way to the airport on July 2nd to come here for 4th of July festivities, I took my Fiat 500X and I dropped it at the dealership there, returned it, and got on my one-way flight to Minnesota. So I was going to go home and have to buy a car anyway. Now, I'm in Minnesota. I'm not in Minnesota now. I'm in the Midwest, Wisconsin. I'm in Minnesota borrowing a buddy's car and thinking, I'd like to do my travel around and, visit Madison and Rochester and do what I wanted to do and then get a ticket to fly back and then go figure out the car thing. When he asked me, Jennifer, it's cool if you use my car locally, but please don't take it to other cities or out of state. And then I started thinking, well, how am I going to visit Madison? How am I going to visit Rochester? Do I rent a car? What do I do? And then I thought, another quantum packet, ding. I don't have a car. Why not lease or buy a car here? And then that took me down a whole new pathway of starting to search online for what at that time I thought was going to be Camaros. So I was submitting all these forms online, and of course all those pop-up windows came, and I don't even know what I submitted at this point. And then somehow I end up on the phone with some guy at BMW, and I'm telling him I want this and this and this, convertible, and I want a white one and whatever I told him. And he said, well, we don't have that to lease. He said, we have a black on black. And I'm thinking, black on black in Florida, no way. So I said, well, thanks. That's not really what I want. And I was about to hang up the phone. He says, hang on a second. He says, I don't know if this is a color combination you like, but we do have a certified pre-owned 2017 convertible that's white exterior with red leather interior, and it only has 6,000 miles on it. And I was like, oh, that's my car. And anyway, so I went down, test drove it. I didn't even test drive anything else because I already knew, because the vision came to me 2 months prior. And this was the way that manifestation was showing up. And part of the way it showed up was my releasing, trying to figure out how to get it. I was just opening myself up to what are the different possibilities. And I like the Camaro very much too. It didn't have the color combination. It wasn't exactly, but it was close. But it's still following that thread is what led me to what was actually part of the vision, which is what my soul wanted for me and set up for me. So I ended up just flowing into that pathway. So now I have a car and I'm not going to fly home anymore. I'm going to drive home. So that means my timelines start changing too. So I was able to be a lot more flexible with when I was leaving Minnesota. I was still feeling like this was about the time, end of July, beginning of August. I was thinking I'll go out to New York for a girlfriend's bachelorette party that's actually happening this weekend, and now the timelines are changing again. And I don't know why. So there's a certain amount of being on this kind of a journey that's also being able to tolerate uncertainty. Literally in the mornings, I will wake up and be like, I don't know where I'm going today. I don't know if I'm staying where I am. I don't know if I'm going someplace else. I know something's going to show up. I know there will be new ideas that come through the day. I know there will be new connections and people reaching out. But I have to tolerate the uncertainty of not knowing what that is. Same thing when I was staying in Minnesota. I was staying with friends and was invited by a few different people. Interestingly, all guy buddies of mine who are awesome. I mean, these guys are amazing. They're like, stay in my bedroom, I'll sleep on the couch. Stay in my bed, I'll sleep in the basement. Here, have my guest room. I mean, they're just like, the hospitality was incredible. But then there were still like days I would wake up and have a girlfriend ping me and be like, hey, you want to come to the cabin? You wanted this, you wanted that. And literally I would wake up and not know what was going to happen. So it's really been a fascinating exercise in letting go of control, being willing to tolerate uncertainty, and trusting that everything is unfolding in perfect timing and divine order, which is really what I believe to be true about life. And that's what I work with other people on, is helping them understand, how do you get in the flow so that you're manifesting the life that your soul has intended. Now, one of the things that's interesting is that as this journey is evolving, I'm getting new ideas every day. So one thing that I'm really, really passionate about is teaching. Like right now, all I want to do is teach. And I teach something called mind flow. And that's really how the energy flows from the spiritual realms in through your beautiful brain mind, through your beautiful heart mind, and out through your action to manifest the life that it came here to live in partnership with you and through you. So through me in this case. And so being on this journey, there are a lot of new ideas that are clicking for me. All I want to do is teach. And so I think I'm going to do that. Again, from this moment, while this is being recorded, I have no clue how that's going to play out, but I'm getting more visions, more ideas. And so I'm just going to keep following the nudges and following the flow. So I'm going to be going to Office Max or Office Depot or someplace like that and getting some materials to take on the road with me to teach mind flow. So wherever I go, between where I am now, Madison, Wisconsin, down to Florida, but via the East Coast. So I'll probably be going through Chicago, I think Indiana, Pennsylvania, Ohio, up into New York, somewhere in the Northeast. I don't know exactly where. I am happy to teach mind flow anywhere. If it's one person in a laundromat, I want to teach them mind flow. If it's a bunch of students on the college campus, I want to teach them mind flow. And it's something, all I need is a whiteboard or a flip chart. Not even that, right? Well, I like to have that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna get it. But that's some index cards. Like, it doesn't have to be anything big and fancy, but a group of people who want to connect with each other and who want to learn more about how to embody their soul's wisdom and desires and agenda in the human life, which is really when you rock the shit out of life and feel super fulfilled and connected and like all the meaningful stuff. If there's someone who wants to learn, like, I want to teach it. So I'm going to see how that unfolds. That's my intention at this juncture. And I want to also explore this idea of authentic connection too, because I think that we're over connected these days. Like, through all the apps, and while I think something, obviously Facebook is great, I'm communicating with you right now through this modality, and I think those are important. It's not a replacement for authentic connection. And authentic connection is about seeing each other, hearing each other, feeling understood, feeling known. And so there are two parts to that, the giver and the receiver. So myself, if I'm not showing up authentically, how can I expect to be known over there by you, and vice versa, right? If we're stuck in our own stuff, we can't see what's happening for another person. I think that made sense the way I just said that. Anyway, so there's something about authentic connection and really being able to know each other and to feel known, which is not something that we can do through apps and emojis. It really takes that deeper level of connection. And so I want to be having conversations with people about that along the way. So I really hope that you'll be following me on this journey. And I want to know from you too, what is authentic connection to you? What helps you feel connected and valued to other people, or even within yourself? When you're connected inside yourself, centered and grounded in your own truth, that's alignment. That's alignment with the truth of who you are. That's being your soul being embodied in your human experience. And when you're connected with another person in relationship and conscious connection, that just takes that inner feeling and expands it out, and now starts to include a broader collective. And that's what we're here for, guys. So I would love to hear from you about what that is from you, what that means to you, or anything else that you want to share about what makes your soul happy. What did your soul come here to do? So follow me on Instagram, here on Facebook. I'm going to be doing a lot of posting and updating. I want to know your questions too and comments. And if you're on my pathway, give me a shout out. I would love to see you. I would love to connect with you. I got no agenda, baby. I got no timeline other than the one that's been laid out for me by Spirit. And I, as a human, don't know what that is yet. I won't know until I get back in Florida and look back down the path, how the time was supposed to play out, and how the connections were supposed to play out, and how my energy was meant to be spent. So I hope you'll be curious with me and in the journey with me. And I can't wait to hear your comments and introduce me too. Introduce me to people, because I want to spread the love, share the love, make the circles bigger. All right, this is enough for this video. Sending you all lots of love, and thanks for those who were able to join. Thank you, Betsy, for your lovely comment. And please share this with people who you care about, who you know would be interested in following this kind of journey and this kind of information. And hopefully we'll cross paths soon. Cheers, darling.